The last few days, God has really been bringing up this topic of evil, and you might have noticed that I've been doing a lot of videos on this, and it's really not, I don't go off of my own ideas, I go off of whatever he's bringing up, whether it's, questions that people are asking, or things that he's building through my own experiences, or things that he's just outright saying, this is what you need to talk about. And it's been several days now. And I believe that the reason why he's doing this, and the thing that I'm seeing in counterfeit Christianity, is that there's so much emphasis on evil, but it's incorrect. It is outright incorrect. What you guys have, what you've been taught, what I've been taught, what all of us have been taught. We've been taught that Satan has power that he does not have. And it's been presented to us in such a way that people are more afraid of Satan than they are of God. And it's coming from a total and complete misunderstanding of the sovereignty of God and the power of the devil. The power of the devil, you have more power in you than the devil actually has. You have the Spirit of God in you. You have more power, you have more wisdom, and there's a reason why the devil would want to establish counterfeit teachings regarding his power. First of all, you know that he's delusional. He has gone up against God because he thinks he can win. But second of all, because as long as you think that he has more power than God and more power than you, you're going to be externally focused. You're not going to be internally focused. You're going to be externally focused on some sort of perceived threat. And you're never going to, it's going to block you, first of all, from connecting to yourself and connecting to God, being personally accountable. So there are all kinds of ridiculous teachings that are taught that are completely without understanding. Put on the armor of God. What does that mean? The armor of God is described to you. You're fighting a spiritual war, which means that the helmet of salvation is something that you're living out. The breastplate of righteousness is something that you're living out in your heart. The sword of truth is something that you're standing on, that you believe, that is integrated into you. It's not something you're speaking over the devil to destroy his power. The only power that he has is when you make a decision to focus on him. When you make a decision to succumb to your flesh. God created evil, and he created it for a purpose. And I'm going to tell you what that purpose is. Because he wants a church, he wants children, he wants a wife that chooses him. And so you are in a condition right now where you are choosing, are you going to choose him or are you going to choose the enemy? Choose you this day whom you will serve. Joshua wasn't talking about whether you were like in a cult or something, an overt Satan worshiper. Someone who succumbs to the flesh worships Satan. Someone who lives in the flesh, that's who they worship. That's who they serve. Enough of this focus on Illuminati and all of these ridiculous things that are going on in Hollywood and the music industry. We already know that they're of Satan, but you don't have to be doing those hand gestures and sacrificing on an altar. You need to understand the spiritual fulfillment of that. When you choose the flesh, when you choose the world, when you place other gods before him or even alongside him, you are not worshiping God. You are worshiping something else. False gods and the Satan that hides behind them. Someone asked me a question a little while ago. There were I did a video actually on their comment because they had asked me a lot of questions. But one of the questions, as I was listening to the video, I realized that I didn't fully answer one of the questions, and I think that it deserves more elaboration. And the question is a good question. He asked, why didn't he just skip? Why didn't God just skip the creations that he knew wouldn't make it to heaven and just create those who would eventually make it? And the answer to this is God made those who wouldn't make it to heaven. He made those. He destined some for wrath and some for salvation. He predestined objects for his mercy and objects for his wrath. So we're going to read in Romans 9. So Romans 9, starting at verse 19. One of you will say to me, then why does God still blame us? For who is able to resist his will? But who are you, a human being, to talk back to God? Shall what is formed say to the one who formed it, why did you make me like this? Does not the potter have the right to make out of the same lump of clay some pottery for special purposes and some for common use? What if God, although choosing to show his wrath and make his power known, bore with great patience the objects of his wrath prepared for destruction? What if he did this to make the riches of his glory known to the objects of his mercy, whom he prepared in advance for glory, even us, whom he also called, not only from the Jews, but also from the Gentiles? He's going to be glorified through the objects of his wrath. He is going to make known to the objects of his mercy The riches of his glory. In one of the videos that I uploaded earlier, I said you have to know evil in order to know good, and you have to know good in order to know evil. The fact that you came out of the world, that you were in the world and you were once dead, makes you understand, makes you see, and makes you appreciate the riches of his glory, doesn't it? Well, you are going to understand it much more. You are going to see what he does for those who love him, and you are going to see what he does to those who hate him. You're going to see it. And in fact, you've already seen it. Exodus 9, verse 13. Then the Lord said to Moses, get up early in the morning, confront Pharaoh, and say to him, this is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go so that they may worship me. Or this time I will send the full force of my plagues against you and against your officials and your people, so that you may know that there is no one like me in all the earth. For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with a plague that would have wiped you off the earth. But I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show you my power, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. Do you remember that God said that he carried the Israelites on eagle's wings and he made a name for himself? He raised Pharaoh up to snuff him out like a wick and to show the Israelites what he does to those who disobey him, to those who spurn him and do not listen to him. And he also did it in order to demonstrate to the Israelites that he is God, that he can deliver them from their oppressors, that he can deliver them from slavery, that he could bring them into a promised land, that he could feed them manna from heaven and quail and water from a rock, that he could keep them cool during the day and warm at night. He did that. And in order to display his glory, he had to raise up some who were objects of his wrath. We also have that evil in us. And so when we're looking at that, when we're looking at what's happening to someone who lives the way that we used to live, we're also brought into position, aren't we? We understand some things, and it's important that we understand those things. And so, yes, I understand that he could have just done away with wickedness, but let me tell you something. We'd have been thrown out. We would have been thrown out. We're working something out here. And that's part of what's being revealed in his glory, is that working it out, is that choosing him over all of the things that are so easy in this world. Instant gratification, money, prestige, power, selfishness. We're working something out here. Are we going to give up all of that stuff for him? So let's be careful not to desire that he just throw the wicked out, because we'd be going with him. He's doing something here. And I remember when the Father drew me to the Son and the Son began to prove himself and I began to walk in this way. Many times I said to him, can we just be done with this? What's taking you so long? Why do you need to do this? Why can't you just destroy the wicked? And it was a wicked and selfish thought of my own. And he said to me, it took this long for you to get it. Now you're going to be involved in this ministry. You're going to need to wait until the full number are brought in. I didn't just come to save you. And as I learned to be like him, that's part of his glory. As I learn to want, desire salvation, even for those who've hurt me, he's being glorified as I'm being twisted and contorted and stretched like taffy. He's being glorified in that. That is his righteousness. It's important. And we're all working something out here. So it's not really just a matter of good versus evil as far as us versus them. We're working the evil out of us too. We're having to circumcise and discipline on a daily basis because we're being built. I hope that helps to understand that a little bit more. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.